On today's Phoenix Magazine podcast, we dive into the Arizona Craft Beer Awards, the recent awards that we gave out just a couple of weeks ago. Craig Outier, the editor-in-chief from the magazine, along with Johan Warnholtz, our marketing and events guy here at Phoenix Magazine, join me to discuss, debate, dive in. We don't sample. We already did that. But we do talk a lot of awards, a lot of beer, a lot of breweries, and the upcoming festival next.
Ready, Freddy.
All right. You guys sound good, man, on microphone.
Check.
I like it.
I have to go like this so that I sound like a podcaster.
All right. Those mic checks are in from Johan and Craig. Guys, thanks for being here today. It's Wednesday, October 18th, just a couple days away to the Arizona Craft Beer Awards Festival.
That's right.
Coming up on Saturday. Johan's taking some time out of his busy week away from planning for the festival to join us. Let's talk about awards, guys, because we, about 10, 12 days ago, handed out all these medals to all these great brewers that were very excited. Johan, you got. I was watching through the video that the guild put up. You went through some hugs that night, right?
I did.
Have you recovered from that?
Yes, I'm a hugger by nature, so I was excited about that. I actually prefer hugs right now to handshakes because I injured my hand, and so every time I shake someone's hand, it is painful. So I just hugged everybody instead. Yeah.
No fist bumps or anything like that.
Exactly.
So you handed out the medals to all these winners in 19 categories. Let's kind of go through this. We'll start at Brewery of the Year. Kind of give me a little bit of reaction or surprises. What you thought of? So Pedal Haus wins Brewery of the Year based off of winning 3 gold medals.
Yeah.
6 points for gold, 5 for silver, 4 for bronze is I think how the guild divided it up. So they win 3 golds, they get 18 points. Runners up, Roses by the Stairs and Wren House Brewing each with 14.
Yeah.
Really, what I thought was interesting, it's second year in a row because Oro won it last year. 2 breweries that don't can their beer on like a mass production, mass scale type of thing.
And talk about too, like
different
ends of the spectrum in terms of brewery size, right? Like you have Oro win one year, and you have Pedal Haus win the next year, and the completely different levels of how much they produce and everything like that.
Oro's a nano brewery, they call it, right?
Yeah, it's one of the smaller places you'll ever go to, but fantastic beer. They win national, international, and they won plenty of medals that we'll get into here from Arizona. From our competition,
The way that this competition is judged is it's the same rules as Great American Beer Festival, which ultimately is beers are awarded for being as close to the style guidelines for whatever style they're submitted as. So while there are categories like experimental and things like that, where it's like breweries are, putting in kind of their weird, different, beers. Ultimately, if you're submitting a beer into like the Pilsner category, the goal is to create the most two-style traditional Pilsner possible. And from that perspective,
based on those guidelines that are available to judges there,
So based on that, to me, it is no surprise that Pedal Haus took home Brewery of the Year, because if there's something that Pedal Haus specializes in, is just creating beers to style. Their German Pilsner is probably unanimously within the beer community in Arizona recognized as like your most traditional German Pilsner that you can find.
Right.
So Pedal Haus excels in that regard.
And that's on their website. Like they list all their medals, and going back since they opened, I think in 2008 or whatever it is, something like 40 or 50 competition. We're talking World Beer Cup, U.S. Open, some ones down
LA
in like Mexico, L.A. And GABF. And now they're just adding more with our competition. So hopefully they get that up there on their website. I'm sure they will.
Yeah. But that to me wasn't a surprise. I mean, you can ask most brewers in town who the best brewer in town is, and a lot of them just recognize that Doc Osborne at Pedal Haus is just the most experienced, knowledgeable, brewer. I mean, there's a lot of excellent brewers who are doing incredible things, who are being very, pioneering in what they're doing and how they're brewing things. But Doc is just like, if you want if you want to brew a traditional beer, Doc is.
Yeah, and there's a guy I thought really pleasantly surprised to see him at the judging on that day that we judged all those beers. He was one of, I think we had 65 judges, and it wasn't just, the amateurs like me and some other folks that we had last year. We actually had, real brewers from professional and home brewers, and, there's guys like Jesse from Oro. At my table, I sat with the brewer from Walter Station and the brewer from Oso Paradise Valley, as well as an advanced Cicerone in Bonehouse Bierkowski. Rachel's and one of the heads of Ash, Jackie. So it was a very experienced table, a lot of knowledge and a lot of different things. And the way they did it was the people who ran the back of the house, kind of an industry term, I guess, where they poured the beers, brought them out. They divided all of us into tables so that we wouldn't be sampling, like Josh from Oso, he wouldn't be sampling his own beer.
Yeah.
Or Jesse from Oro wouldn't have his own beer as a judged beer. So you were judging other people's beers. So they really did a nice job of dividing everyone up and not just like, hey, pick a random table. So
back on the Brewery of the Year topic, I was happy to see Roses by the Stairs.
Yeah, brand new one. I think they just had their
was that
first year. Yeah,
second in terms of best.
Yeah, runner up, tied with Wren House.
So and they've only been around for a couple years, right?
Yeah,
and they were
just 1 year. I think they just hit their 1 year anniversary like last week or a couple weeks ago.
And they lean really hard into Belgians, which not a lot of breweries do in the Valley or in Arizona. Great saisons.
Those like farmhouse style ales. A lot of stuff that kind of needed around here, right?
I was really happy to see them. They took over that old Easley's Funhouse space. On McDowell, which used to be like a Halloween shop, and classic Valley space and building, and to see him come in there and do so well in the first year is great.
I've kind of noticed that a lot of people talk about Roses by the Stairs in the same way that people used to talk about Wren House when Wren House first opened. Like it's kind of the same sort of like, wow, they're doing really great stuff. And it's funny to me that Roses by the Stairs kind of specializes in or is leaning into the Belgian stuff because right down the street is Grand Avenue Brewing, which also, they won a gold for Belgians. They're also very specialized in the Belgian styles. And then right in downtown Phoenix as well, you have Wilderness, which does a lot of saisons and farmhouse ales and things like that, and Pedal Haus, which also has an incredible Tripel and all other belts. So it's almost like
Greenwood. You could throw Greenwood in there too, for sure.
It's becoming this like Belgian mecca in Arizona, like right there in like Grand Avenue downtown area.
That's
kind
of
fun.
The other big one is up in Pine Top Brewing Company, and they do a bunch. Like it's all Belgian.
Yeah,
but you don't hear much about them.
I think I've had them before. I think that's their best beer is when they brew a Tripel or a Quad or something like that.
You rarely, if ever, see it down here in the Valley, though. They just don't project outside of the White Mountains. But still, it's kind of a fun treat to go up there and,
It's a must stop on your way up to the White Mountains for sure, up to Sunrise.
Right. Craig, from like the magazine perspective, like what is it? How does the awards and all of this in your mind fit into the magazine, the brand, like your efforts to kind of highlight Arizona beer?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's it's kind of taken. When I started editing the magazine in 2012, there wasn't a whole lot to write about. It was starting to happen. I remember when the only breweries in town that you even call craft breweries or places that brewed on site were chains. There was obviously Four Peaks, been there forever, mid-'90s, but you had places like BJ's and
beer,
right, and they're kind of corporate. They weren't based here, they weren't conceived here, so it was hard to get excited or even justify coverage of craft beer, but that has completely changed. And from the very beginning, and especially when Rob Fulmer took over the Craft Brewers Guild, it was always my dream to do a beer awards.
Cool.
But I had no idea how to do it. I had a friend who edited a magazine out of state who kind of got one going and set me up with a consultant. And I talked to him, but really it was it had to have the Craft Brewers Guild support, and to see you guys kind of step in and just take it over, from the magazines and the company perspective, it's been great. So it's really kind of a realized dream.
Yeah, and the timing was so good when we kind of started working on it last year. Before the first one, I remember that first meeting with Rob, but the staff that basically runs the judging and everything is almost a copy and paste of the American Beer Festival that used to happen in Arizona, which was nationally recognized, and that stopped happening, I think, because of COVID or just prior to COVID. But the team that kind of handles the judging for our awards now is the same team that handled the judging. So everybody was kind of like, they wanted to bring something back. They wanted to do this again. And we did. I think we just happened to be stepping in at the right time for that. So it's the reception this year. I mean, the amount of entries increased by like 80 or something like that.
Yeah, what we had? We had 194 beers total from 53 breweries.
And last year it was like 120.
I think it was around that. So it increased for sure. There was a lot more participation on the judging side for sure. And those folks you mentioned, John Rudolph from Ash and Melissa Osborne from Four Peaks, kind of ran the show. Scott Brody from Oso helped a lot with that, and then Andrew and Rob from the Guild and their wives too.
Yeah,
they're the ones coming out serving the beers and handing us notes and stuff. It's great that they get involved. One last note on that is 36 of the 53 breweries walked home with medals that night. Cool. So 17 others.
Democratic.
17 others. Keep trying, guys. I don't know who those 17 were.
Right.
There was a lot of beer flying around afterwards for judges to take home, unused samples. I could probably guess
so
at
many
some,
breweries in Arizona that haven't participated yet that I think would do really well. Just off the top of my head, like Tombstone, Goldwater.
I'm glad you brought those up. Those are ones that I will go to all the time. I don't know if they're into competitions, and some breweries that we've talked to on these podcasts, they say, "Yeah, I'm not really into the competition and submitting and stuff." I wish they
view it less as competing against their peers, and I can understand why they find that unsavory. And just look at it as a great opportunity to get attention for the beer community.
And not only that,
because I don't think it's really about a lot of these beers are here every year. They're placing competition every year, offer competition. It's great when they win, but no one really it's all subjective. We get that. I'd love to see more breweries participate.
The other thing too is from the first year, from last year, and part of the culture that I think that the guild and the brewing community and the judging staff is trying to build is that whether you win or not, you're taking home actionable, real, helpful feedback on the beer that you submitted.
Yeah, right.
That can then the brewer can then take it and decide whether they want to adjust something to improve the beer in the eyes of the judges, or whether they want I like the way it is. I like it the way it is, but like the idea, while there are medals and awards involved, I think in large part the idea is to create a feedback system that allows Arizona beer as a whole to improve.
For sure.
And so whether a brewery wins or not, they should still be able to take home something that allows them to improve, whether that's locally or if they do want to compete on a more national or international level. And that, I think, is important for the breweries that are less interested in competing to take into consideration, I think. Like whether or not your beer wins, you get something back for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's helpful. It's that whole rising tide.
And this judging panel that we had, man, they were some smart guys in that room, guys and gals. They knew where, like we talked to Will from Catalyst the other day. He's talking about, the mid hop level variation and all this nerdy kind of beer talking.
Yeah.
So that actually goes a long way to helping those guys. So
the other thing too that I hope that we see more of is, we have a pretty good representation of local, of Phoenix-based breweries, and we have, some out of Tucson, and a handful that are out of Flagstaff, but there's a lot that are outside of Phoenix that still haven't
Are on the sidelines.
that are on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those breweries hopefully will start to participate in future years.
Any
because-
particular
because
that you love?
Dark Sky?
That don't compete? Yeah, Dark Sky.
Dark Sky.
Great, right?
Or like a Wanderlust.
Wanderlust.
Right?
I think they could dominate some
Tucson,
of the underserved categories.
Like
you know,
what?
They make, like you were talking about, the Belgian styles, those. But
Yeah, right.
Like we'll get into the categories. Some of them are, like hazy IPA had 19, sours had 18, but
Those are the most
there
popular
were some
categories.
that
Makes
were
sense,
just
right?
down to
Yeah.
like 5 categories. So
Right. Those are a little tougher to.
And I think there's also an opportunity to loop in some of the not necessarily beer, but sort of beer adjacent, like ciders and meads. Like there's more meaderies opening. I know there's the Drinking Horn in Flagstaff. There's obviously Superstition. There's Below the Rim in Payson. And there's probably more. That's a growing community that is producing tons of different kinds of mead. And then you also have cideries.
Yep.
You have Cider Core, you have Six Bird, and there's others kind of making their way in. And so I hope that as we go forward, we start maybe opening up like a mead and cider category or something like that to loop
that'd be
them
good.
in.
And I think more and more
then
are
seltzers,
producing
too.
Yeah,
There's several breweries that are-
non-alcoholic beers, that sort of
Totally.
thing. Yeah.
But there's several breweries in town that are producing seltzers as well. I know
Yep.
Catalyst is making seltzers. I know Oso is making
Haas has
seltzers.
been doing
Haas
it,
is
yeah.
making. So I think there's an opportunity there to bring in that sort of thing as well. And that brings in other people that don't necessarily drink beer, but are seltzer fans. And so it's the foundation. I feel like we've done a good job of building this foundation. The beer festival certainly is growing, and the awards are growing. So
I wonder what the judging table would be like when you're expecting maybe an IPA and here's a tray of seltzers here. This is your first category.
Yeah.
Good luck, guys. All right. So speaking of the categories, let's start hazy IPA. It was most popular with 19 entries. Gold Spellbinder, silver was Fog Lights from Moto Sonora, and bronze Warrior Hazy from Greenwood. No real surprise with Spellbinder. It did get bronze the year before, so it took gold this year.
Right. Did Mother Road compete?
That I don't know. I didn't see them on the medal list, so I don't know if they had any submissions. I wasn't privy to any of that info of all the breweries, but they weren't on any of the medal lists.
Because I love their hazy version of Tower Station, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
That's a tasty one too, but who knows?
Yeah, that limited.
Great.
I think you're talking about limited visibility. That's the one we brought in the chef for the Best of the Valley, and he went through the hazy IPAs and he landed on that one.
Yeah,
as,
we had
as
a
his
Best of
favorite.
the Valley taste test for the Best of the Valley issue for hazy IPAs, and that was his number one.
It was
right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was kind of sentimentally hoping that would be represented. But that's
like I said, Craig, some of your favorite breweries are not listed because they may not submit.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's nothing we could do about that, right?
Right.
But I mean, Spellbinder's iconic. Another brewery that I would like to see participate that I think could probably give Spellbinder a run for their money is The Shop with Church Music.
Oh yeah, they didn't. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the most common hazy in the state in terms of you see it on taps everywhere. So, yeah, you're right. That's an interesting one too.
So, but
the shop did participate in 22. They won a bronze for Neonic, so I don't know if they just didn't have any submissions this year or or not.
What about American IPA? That was also a highly competitive category.
So
I
that was
imagine.
9. We had Victory or Death, Moto Sonora Brewing, 1 gold. Silver went to Breakers from Roses by the Stairs, and bronze.
I didn't realize Roses by the Stairs
Walter
had
Station.
such a good IPA program.
Yeah, you were talking about their Belgians, and
Yeah.
I think they won every other category that they submitted except the Belgian category.
Oh, really? No, they did. They were second in Belgians.
Oh, they had they had a farmhouse in there, right? Yeah,
yeah.
The JoJo, I think, was on there.
That's it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
No saison category though. I mean, are there enough made in Arizona? Maybe not, huh?
It's not so much if they're made in Arizona or if they're submitted. I think
Right,
saisons
right.
end
A
up
saison
falling
might have
under
been-
a Belgian
They
probably
might
would-
have been lumped into another category.
I would either fold it into Belgian or into like, specialty.
Could be.
Yeah.
We did expand the categories. I think we had 11 in the first year, and
Yeah.
now it's 19 this year. So like a German Pilsner, like Johan mentioned, the Pedal Haus one, that was just a generic Pilsner Helles category a year ago. This year we had an American Pilsner category and a German Pilsner category.
Right.
So, yeah, Moda Sonora, man, I do like that one. That there was a lot of samples left over that one. I think they had that at the awards night, and so I got my hands on a bunch of that. Really, really good stuff. Yeah, Walter Station on there.
Walter Station was the bronze for American.
The bronze.
IPA.
3 new winners this year. None
great.
of those are repeats like we had. If you go to American Pilsner, 15 entries. Dragoon Pilsner ended up being best in show.
Right.
And I can tell you it's from sitting on the best in show table the last 2 years. I don't know if it's you've had so many different beers all day long, it's getting late, but a lager just tasted, or a Pilsner tastes so much better than any other beer.
It's friendly
And
on the palate.
I don't
once
know
your
if that
palate's been
influenced
destroyed.
it at all. But man, yeah,
So
Dragoon Pilsner.
It's a good late session style.
I
Like
get-
after you've been drinking all day.
I really liked the lager last year.
The lager has the best on the palate.
Yeah,
That's
the
interesting.
Dragoon Pills was, and it was a pretty easy, 6 people decided on that, I think, fairly quickly.
Yeah.
We just went down the line, eliminated 19 beers from all the categories, all the gold medal winners. We're like, get rid of these, get rid of these. It came down to that and the Belgian, which
From Grand Avenue.
yeah,
Wow.
Belgian
Oh,
was in the top 2. So we
That's
kind of
awesome.
we kind of debated that for the longest debate was between the lager and the Belgian to
Yeah,
win
cool.
best in show.
Cool. I would have voted for the Belgian myself.
I was getting there at first. I was like, but then you keep sipping and like,
That's
give
great
me
to see
that one.
Dragoon do it.
Yeah.
So then there's West Coast IPA too, right? Now, describe what's the difference between a West Coast and an American IPA?
That's a great question. I think American IPA probably, and I don't know, you might know this, or if you have the guidelines around, but I think West Coast, there's like there's specific kinds of hops, that are grown in kind of the Pacific Northwest and California. Whereas American IPAs might have like a broader range of hops that you can use.
All right.
That whether a beer is submitted to West Coast IPA category or American IPA category is up to the brewery
Up to
that's
the brewery?
submitting it.
It's not just an IBU thing like West Coast.
I believe it is a little bit
Probably
bitter
there are
and less
differences.
malty than an American IPA.
Right.
Like I
Yeah,
noticed the
an American IPA
difference
is
if
more
you go
malty,
to
right,
get a beer from like the Midwest or the East Coast, a lot more malty than
Right.
you would get in San Diego or
Right.
Oregon,
Oregon, yeah.
Seattle,
And
something like
not
that.
quite as much. They're not hop bombs. Not as
Right,
much
right.
pine in your.
Oh yeah,
gob.
West Coast is going to be a piney, yeah, real piney. So the winner of that was West Clear. Yeah, pine in the cup. I like
Yeah.
that. So fun note about the West Clear from Arizona Wilderness, the very first beer brewed by Wilderness's new head of production, Brad Miles.
Oh, cool.
It was the first one. I think he came out here sometime in the summer.
Right.
New.
After
I think
their
he had
head
been here
brewer
before
left.
somewhere. Yeah, their head brewer left for Chicago. Ashley, I think her name was.
Yep.
So first beer, and then man, he nailed it. Gold medal in West Coast IPA.
Yep.
Renovation got the bronze from Wren House, and Huss got a silver for It's a Dry Hop.
I haven't had that yet.
And I
I
haven't
think that's
I've
a
had
newer
plenty of
beer.
renovation. But
That's It's a Dry Hop is a newer beer.
I
for
think
Huss.
that's-
It's something recently.
Never seen it before.
it's a dry hop. I think that might have been their fresh hop. So
Oh, cool.
like fresh submission. So good for them. Flip the page, specialty. Now a brewery that Johan and I
That's a
that was our
broad
last
category.
podcast.
For sure.
Catalyst Crafted Ales gets the gold.
Now, what
for
is
mobility scooter?
Yeah, what is mobility
it's a
scooter?
barley
What
It's a
kind?
barley wine.
wine. Wow,
And it's
okay.
excellent.
And if I remember the day of judging, I looked over at the table that had these beers. I think there was these beers.
It's a great
And
name.
it was, I swear, there was like a purple beer. It was like a rainbow of beers that were in front of them. There was
Yeah.
all different colors. And I
Right.
pointed out to our table, I'm like, that is a wild selection of beers at that table.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it just sounds like a happenstance motley category.
Yeah, there
What
was-
is what's kill? It's silver was Kill All Lagers.
Kill
by
All
12
Lagers from
West.
12 West
What
got the
is it? Is it
silver.
a lager?
I've had it before. It's I think it's more of like a cold IPA.
Okay.
It might be,
That's funny.
or that like cold filtered lager.
And it's their statement that they're not fond of lagers. I like that.
Yeah,
Or something.
I've had it before. It's a great beer.
And then bronze was Ale's Wife Pumpkin Pie,
Yeah,
which is
so-
the beer of the month in Phoenix Magazine this month.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, just because
Also-
it's the preeminent pumpkin beer in the
So
state,
good.
right?
It's-
It won
yeah.
a silver in Denver a couple years ago.
I think it won a
Bronze.
gold.
Bronze.
Did it win a bronze? Okay.
Yep, it won gold
us
last year.
Right.
With us.
Yeah. And then this year bronze.
I'm gonna look up Kilo Lagers because
Well, he does that. Let's
Yeah.
go to the next one. German Pilsner.
Quick note on Alewives. It's going to be at the Beer Fest.
Oh, it is?
It's probably the best beer Desert Monks does. They won gold, like Johan said, in a category we
Last
called
year,
herb
right.
spice coffee last year. So they get bronze in specialty this year.
Oh, cool. All right.
But yeah, German Pilsner, the gold Pilsner from Pedal Haus. They also won the gold in 2022. Hellas Lager from the brewery at Torito Farm.
Wow.
Kind of near and dear to my heart. I wrote about them in the previous
Sure
issue
did,
of Phoenix
yeah.
Mag. They got the silver. And
It's owned by a doctor in Tucson.
Yep.
It's out there in Wilcox in the middle of
talking about
nowhere. Yeah.
It really is the middle of nowhere.
so
There's
cool that they
nothing
want
around it
something.
other than farmland and for
that
wine
Hellas
country, you
is
know?
excellent.
It is good.
It is probably the best Hellas.
And that's what
I've
actually
had, yeah.
turned us on to the knowledge that this place even existed. We had some beers at the or before the awards last year while we were setting up,
Oh, no
and we
kidding.
cracked one of those. We're like, what even is the brewery at Torito Farm? So,
Yeah. By the way,
got us wondering.
That's amazing.
Kill All Lagers is a lager.
It is a lager.
It is a collaboration with Old Ellsworth
I
Brewing.
wonder why they put it in specialty. beer.
It is a Pineapple Express terpene.
Oh, there you go.
So it's an experimental lager.
There you go. And then
that would be specialty, yeah. Very special.
and then the bronze for
Bronze,
German-
Prasna Brana, Renhaus, a beer that I believe they've won other awards for.
That's funny. I
Forgot
always
to
thought
research
Prasna
that, but-
Branas were that was a Czech style.
So, like I said, as we grow the beer awards, we might have beers that get lumped into
Yeah.
broader categories like German Pilsner Lager. So,
So
Prasna
Prasna
Brana fits in
Brana
there.
is a tower in Prague
Oh,
in the Czech Republic.
oh, cool.
So
It's like a Czech lager then, probably.
Yeah.
That's cool. Though.
So, yeah, Hazy Pales, International Pales, 8 entries. 12 West comes up again. Smooth Transitions, gold medal. They also won this gold at the U.S. Beer Open Championship in July.
Nice.
So
Oh, wow.
a lot of professional judges really like this beer.
And that's interesting. That's its own category, hazy pale. It's not necessarily a common category or style that's I think most beer fans are aware of.
Yeah.
Or super aware of.
Yeah.
It's kind of, but obviously one that's trending here
It's
in the state.
and on the can, I believe it just says a pale ale. So, 18th hour
right.
from Crooked Tooth gets the silver, and a beer that's technically called Hazy IPA from Four Peaks wins bronze.
Cool.
So I guess they fit into that category.
And that would be different than a hazy IPA, probably less alcohol, right? Usually a pale
Right.
ale is a little less
Yeah.
potent than a
Yeah, they're
IPA.
usually a good 1 or 2% lower.
Right.
Well,
in,
I also
in a
think
pale.
that pale ales are not dry hopped as heavily as IPA because IPA is not imperial pale ale; it's India pale ale, and it's marked as a style of beer that is heavily dry hopped because they used to use dry hopping as a form of preserving the beer during the transit from England all the way around Africa
Thank
to
you for the
India.
IPA lesson.
Right,
Wilma.
you're welcome.
But
So,
those are usually in
pale
the
ales,
6 to 7% ABV range, and a
Yeah, I
pale
mean,
is
it-
around
Alcohol and less
5 or
hop.
so.
It could be for sure,
yeah.
but it's definitely. I think the big differentiation between the styles is probably how heavily how
hop they are? That
Hoppy,
too,
hop
yeah.
they are. Yeah.
I might have to take off. Can you guys finish up on this?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks
Good
for
stuff.
listening.
Thanks,
but
Craig.
Yeah. Talk
Right
soon.
before we get to Imperial Juicy, Craig is out of here.
Yeah, that category triggers me. So I just want to leave before I said something, get fired for.
Well, we didn't want your opinions on these, the rest of these, anyways, Craig. All right, Craig is out. So, Johan, Oro pops up here
Yeah.
for the first time. King Gus wins Golden Imperial Juicy Hazy. One of the I don't know what if we had a minimum on some of these, but I think this and 2 or 3 other categories had 5 entries. So they win gold. They were last year's Brewery of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
This is their first. I don't know how many entries they had. I think they had 3 or 4 last year, but they swept everything they entered last year.
Yeah.
They swept 2 categories, or they got 2 categories this year. Catalina Brewing gets silver for Gears of Glory.
I feel like that's a pretty new brewery.
That was a brewery I'd never heard of
I hadn't
before.
either.
I guess they opened in 2016.
Yeah.
Down in Marana.
Really?
Yeah.
But yeah, and they won 2 silvers. So
And they're going to be at the
definitely-
Beer Fest. Can't wait to try them. I don't know if I think I did judge this category if I remember right, but it may have been another one. I can't remember that. I can remember some of the categories. And the bronze goes to Roses by the Stairs for double. Like we said, they got a hazy IPA and now this hazy imperial IPA category. So they're doing good hazies over at
For
Roses
sure.
by the Stairs.
For sure.
American Fruit Wheat. There's Oro again with Trigo Suave. They won the gold in this category last year. That's their go-to. You know, they win. GABF. They win World Beer Cup with that beer.
Yeah.
Grand Canyon. They got the silver for Prickly Pear Wheat.
Which I don't know that I've had the Prickly Pear Wheat, but I've had Grand Canyon's Prickly Pear IPA.
Yeah, there are a couple different variations of Prickly Pear there.
I think it's clear that they know how to work with that flavor because that Prickly Pear IPA is really I think it's really good. And Prickly Pear to me seems like a hard flavor to work with because it's not a particularly strong flavor unless it's applied in sort of a concentrated way, but then it's easy to overdo it and basically create sort of a something that's too sweet. So I feel like if the wheat was at all as good as the IPA is done, then it makes sense to me that they would want something for that.
Yeah, I could tell that. We'll bring that up when we get to experimental IPA because there was I think some prickly pear in that category, and I remember I'd medaled that round and there were some that were really, really bad. Two beers that were really bad in that one.
Prickly pear is a good flavor. It goes well with like a sort of a sour.
Sure.
I remember the first time I ever had Goldwater's prickly pear. They have a prickly pear.
I think it's just called Prick, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
No, isn't it cactus juice? Maybe that's a different one. But either way,
no, cactus juice is Arizona Wilderness. Yeah.
That's right. Either way, I remember the first time I ever had Goldwater's prickly pear beer, and this was like 8 years ago or something when they first just opened. I was really underwhelmed because I was like hoping for that sort of sour bite.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of felt like it should have had it. I think that beer that Goldwater makes has improved since then, and it's a lot better now. But prickly pear just seems like a flavor that goes well with sours. So I'm surprised that I haven't seen more like prickly pear sours. Cause
apparently last summer's monsoon really opened it up for prickly pear. The harvest off of last summer, not this past one, but in 2022, the folks from Basin and Range down in Tucson said that they got so much off of that monsoon because of prickly pear. And then wrap up American Fruit Weed Bronze, Saddle Mountain. They had a big night of awards, including can art for this beer, Strawberry Bitch.
Yeah,
they got bronze here, and they won gold.
Strawberry is another flavor that is not particularly powerful. It's not particularly, in your face. But that Strawberry Bitch is a really well done version of it.
Very drinkable. That
sweet,
one.
Yeah, and you get all that strawberry without it being overly sweet. So I know there's another brewery in Arizona that does a strawberry beer that I just have always been a little underwhelmed with. So the Saddle Mountain one is, to me, it's just excellent.
And they have a big day Saturday. They're coming to the Beer Fest, and they also have their 9-year anniversary party.
Oh, that's awesome.
Shout out to Laura and all the team there at Saddle Mountain. They are very good people. Belgians.
Grand Avenue.
Man, repeat.
That's what they.
Grand Quad. And like I said, that was the top 2 in Best in Show. We only awarded one. We only recognized one beer in Best in Show this year, as opposed to a top 3.
Yeah.
But if we did, a Grand Quad would have been up there getting a second place medal.
No, it's a good beer for sure.
Roses by the Stairs with JoJo.
Yep.
And Uncle Bear's Paint Me Like a Frenchie.
Yeah.
That is one I took home a bunch of that after judging day. And man, I like that.
Sort of a farmhouse, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of sour.
It's blueberry.
Yeah.
Not so much sour. It's I think it's more of a saison.
Okay.
And farmhouse ale saison.
So it's got a little funk to it.
It's a little bit, but the blueberry kind of overtakes that, and it's just a very drinkable.
That's awesome.
If maybe a good introduction to farmhouse saison kind of beers. The 13 entries in the American Amber Brown. Huss takes gold for Oktoberfest.
Great beer.
And that's one they bronzed in the year before.
Mm-hmm.
The bronze here goes to that brewery, Nutty Not Brown, a beer that feels like it's just been around forever.
Yeah, for sure.
They get recognized there. And then the brewery at Torito Farm pops back up. Their second medal was Cerveza Cobre. Fun story about that. So the owner, like Craig mentioned, cardiologist in Tucson, his wife is from Mexico, where I think her backstory is like she lived in the type of village that you would, go walk down the street and people were just serving fresh meat everywhere. That it wasn't like grocery stores or anything like that where she's from. So that it's kind of a homage to where she's from, and also the kind of the copper of the beer, an Arizona staple of copper. So it's an homage to the owner's wife, and she was very excited about that win.
Awesome.
Experimental IPA. Here's one where I was on the table for the medal round on here, and we had to excuse the OSO judge from our table because he recognized the beer right away. And the gold, he ended up winning the gold. Boom Dynamite. They won gold in 2022 as well for this one. Pink Monsoon Hazy from Catalina Brewing got their second medal there. And Hell of a Brewing, which I feel like won more last year than they did this year. I think this is their one win at Hell of a Bitter Crisp Symphony, a cold IPA. So this was kind of a very wide range. There was a couple sessions on the table along with these three, and the sessions were really awful. So we knew right away to get rid of those two. And there was something very, very wrong about it. And
it's tough to make a good session because the way that, as far as I know, the way that you get a beer to be lower alcohol is by bringing less grain, which essentially leaves you with a less flavor, right? Like unless you get less of that maltiness, and I think it's hard to make a well balanced session IPA. So that doesn't totally surprise me.
I was just reading a post before we started this. Wren House is starting to bring back their NA non-alcoholic Spellbinder.
Oh.
And in this post, they kind of wrestle with how difficult it is to make an NA beer like that and still have the flavor. So you're right. It's it's one of those, people want NA options, but some of the smartest minds out there in the beer world are really, really struggling with how to make the right kind of thing and still kind of keep with their brand.
Totally. Sours.
Yeah, so that was it. So sour, second biggest category, 18. Gold went to Phoenix Beer Co. Sunset Sour.
Great beer.
Uncle Bear's Brewery Debo Sour Double IPA was in there. That got silver. I love that beer. That's just such a unique flavor. There's not a lot of people who do that.
Yeah, sour IPAs are a underrepresented style. To me, the way the hops play with the sour beer is delicious.
What do you think that is? Is that just like a customer thing? People are just look at that on the menu board like, oh, I want one or the other. I want a sour or an IPA. I don't want a sour IPA.
I could be wrong about this, but to me, what it feels like is that people who like sours don't like IPAs, and people who like IPAs typically don't like sours.
Right.
And so, like, when you combine the two, I think people get a little funky. I'm that way with, like, sour stouts. Like, I see a sour stout, and I'm like, absolutely not.
I've tried
either want a sour or I want a
it's the worst thing ever, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like a sour IPA, like, sounds weird. But for me, the only reason I drink IPAs today is because I started drinking sour IPAs. Because the thing I didn't like about IPAs before was I didn't like the lingering aftertaste of like that hoppy bitterness. Like I didn't like that. My palate wasn't like friendly to hops so much.
Yeah.
I used to drink all like malty, Scotch, Belgians, like the maltier beers. But when I started drinking sour IPAs, like I learned to enjoy the hoppy bitterness, the hop flavors. But then the sour part of it would sort of cut off the aftertaste. So I wouldn't be left with I could taste the hops without getting that aftertaste that just lingered in there and just dried your mouth out. And so it warmed my palate up to those flavors. And then from then I started drinking more IPAs, and especially like on the hazier, juicier, kind of sweeter side. And then, eventually now I like to drink all of them. But sour IPAs are an underrepresented style of beer, I think, overall.
And this is a category, when we have one with like 18 or 19 entries, the judges are presented with probably like 6 at a time at the most.
Yeah.
And so they are passing 1 or 2 off each round, and a different table might get another 6 and so on.
Yeah.
So this has gone through. This is a category that may have gone through 3 or 4 or 5 different stages of judging here. And bronze goes to Verdi Brewing for Watermelon Sour, a beer that I believe was on at the Beer Awards, and I remember hearing somebody be like, "Man, this is fantastic." So,
awesome.
Little anecdotal thing there for we profiled the brewer Alex in our beer issue last year in September, October.
Nice.
If anybody's looking for that, it's online, phoenixmag.com. We got a couple more categories. Wood aged gold went to Simple Machine for Barrel of Cherries. I don't know. Some of these I've had Envy. We both had Envy at Catalyst. They won bronze. They won 2 of the 3 medals a year ago. They just get the bronze this year.
Yeah.
Again, they're open on this Friday.
Yeah.
Day before Beer Fest. So congrats to Will and the team over there. Check them out in Tempe. And then the silver, we skipped silver, historic Black Duck Lager.
Got to try that at the awards.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That was there?
Yeah, they had cans of it. I was very pleasantly surprised. Black lagers are a great style, also another style that not a lot of people are doing.
Was that like kind of, it was barrel age. Was it lower in ABV if they canned it, or was it?
No, I think it was like a pretty standard, like 6 or 7%.
Yeah.
But it just had a lot of great flavors. Probably the most unique black lager I've ever had. Really good beer. Happy with it.
So on the black, we got black IPA actually won Stout Porter. The Chasm Chomper is listed as that Cascadian dark ale. Yeah, was it Chasm Chomper, a Cascadian black IPA.
Oh, cool.
So that one won gold in the Stout Porter category from Look Brewing. 2nd year in a row for Look Brewing with a gold.
That's awesome. Yeah.
They won Oktoberfest, I think, the year before.
Yeah, Marissa does good beers for sure.
Very cool to see a brewery. A lot of people probably have never heard of Look Brewing, but if you haven't, get out there, see a movie, get her beer. And then this is one where we didn't have a bronze medalist, but we had a silver, went to State 48 Lager House for Baltic Porter.
At the awards, when the guy from State 48 came up to get it, he kind of muttered under his breath. He's like, "Oh, great, 2nd out of 2." And that's definitely not the case. There were 7 entries.
Yeah.
But they have to pass. They have to meet certain guidelines in order to get through each round. And so they didn't give out a bronze because there was not enough beers in the category that made it all the way through into the medal round. So, I think
that's out of 7. And that's the first time we've had that happen in the 2 years.
Yeah.
In the 30 categories we've had. So first time that there was not a three winners there. So 15 entries in the German Vienna Marzen Dark Lager category. Pedal Haus is the winner there for Beach Cruiser Amber Lager. No you put that German in front of anything, and yeah, it might as well just
Go to Pedal Haus.
start printing Pedal Haus on the metal, right? So they get gold. Save 48 gets the silver. Second out of 15 for them, and bronze goes to Oso out of Paradise Valley for Don Elote. And Oso does submit beers from their other locations. The PV location is the one that won the medals this year, and I believe won most of their medals last year, if I'm not mistaken. They got second or third on the Brewer of the Year rankings. So the beers that you see winning from Paradise or from Oso are pretty good chance they're coming from the Paradise Valley location. They also brew in Gilbert, and
Gilbert is. It
I
seems
think they
like
brew
Gilbert
in
is where they
Arcadia.
brew more of their like big stuff, their stouts and porters, and ales from the crypt is where they do all their barrel aging and all that. So, yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
And now they
ales-
have the old Helton brewing facility, so they're going to be brewing other beers over there too.
Yeah, big things going on with those. So I'm pretty sure they had some of the ales from the crypt in submissions because Josh from Oso was at my table and he said, "You guys can thank me that we're not judging barrel aged beers." So I was like, "Okay." They didn't medal, but I think they had some submissions in there.
Yeah.
Blonde Golden 6 entries. Barrio Blonde, they won 2 golds. This was one of them for our Barrio Brewing. Lazy G took silver for Sunshine Blonde, and Saddle Mountains back with a bronze. Sun Scorched Kolsch, which I know you've gotten your hands on some of that, right?
Yes. Yeah, I was blessed with the brewer's generosity. Anthony gave me some of that.
I like a good Kolsch.
Take
Sometimes,
home, yeah.
sometimes it's not done very well though. So
For sure.
shout out to them
It's
for making a good
It's
one.
a good hot weather beer.
For sure.
Very refreshing.
The Scottish category. I think this was my first round of beers that came to our table. We thought we had given it.
Clandestine won last year.
We thought we had given it to Saddle Mountain when we were done.
Yeah.
Did we just give
and
Anthony a medal?
Clandestine won a GABF,
Yep.
I believe.
Yeah, so they
as
got
well,
bronze on this one. Barrio Brewing,
Yeah.
their second gold for Rojo, and then Black Rock Brewers. Have you ever been there?
No.
In Tucson.
No.
So they
I've
won
heard of
for silver for Tartan 99. I actually
Cool.
have some friends who went there, and it's like, it's one of those real small. Trying to liken it to, if you've ever been out to, what was the? I can't think of the name, but I went to a place in DC. It was really small, kind of cramped, very, very like. It was like there's no AC in there. That's kind of what they described it as to me.
Okay.
Like it's like the place for the locals.
Okay. Yeah, Black Rock Brewers to me sounds like a brewing club, like a home brewing club,
Yeah.
right?
That's kind
funny.
of what they described it as. I
Yeah.
think they went there for one beer and they're like, that's kind of like the locals hang out
Yeah,
there.
that's cool.
So, and then American Pale Ale, the final one we have on our list here, Gold Pedal Haus Desert Classic. They're bringing that one out to. I think they're bringing all 3 of their gold medal beers out to ACBA
Okay.
or out to the festival
Yeah, hopefully.
on Saturday. Fate Brewing shows up with a silver for Fateful.
Yep.
And bronze, Greenwood Brewing. They had a big night too. I think they won
did.
2 or 3.
I think they won 3. Happy to see them win. I think they do really good stuff, and sometimes they're when people talk about their favorite breweries in the state, I think Greenwood often gets overlooked. So happy to see them do as well.
And
as
I
they
think
did.
they're the most enthusiastic about their wins too.
Yeah.
When they hear their name, they are running
get
up to the
stoked.
stage.
Yeah. And then did you have can art on there?
Can art, yeah. So gold.
So I have.
Yeah, go ahead.
So can art was judged by the Phoenix Magazine editorial and design team. So
We had a whole case, like 24
Yep.
beers, right?
that were given to us to judge, to give out a bronze, silver, and gold, and then the editorial team sat down and made their decisions based on it's subjective to what their design preferences, but it's kind of a cool way to loop them into the awards. Most of them are not beer drinkers. I think Craig might be the only one that drinks beer out of all of them. So
From the panel that I know, they probably had no idea what any of the beer inside the can tasted like.
So
they went purely off of label and design.
Craig sent me kind of comments on each one of these to kind of describe why they picked them, and I think they're well written and kind of a fun way to explain why they won. So the first, so bronze was Oso. They won for their hoppy, their bright, their popsicle, and their boom dynamite as like a series. And
it's kind of like a fun when you put all four of them. Kind of visualize fun little 1, 2, 3, 4 all in a row series. Yeah.
So though none of the 4 cans cracked our top 5 picks on their individual merits, together they comprise a salute to throwback Warholian pop art that was too knowing, fresh, and playful to resist. So yeah, they have this very pop art sort of vibe to them, the way they're designed, and it's a lot of fun.
A collective award.
Yeah.
I like it.
Silver went to Wren House for Spellbinder. So perhaps Arizona's most iconic can art, a weirdly hypnotic, domineering specimen of triple vision, bold-face pop art that's half Paul Rand, half Shepard Fairey. So, very iconic. You see it on the shelf, and you know exactly. You immediately, you don't even have to read the words.
I always worry I'm going to go cross-eyed looking at it.
And then our gold was Saddle Mountain Strawberry Bitch, and their comment there was, loved everything about this can: the metallic magenta color scheme, the crisply illustrated Archie Comics inspired heroine, the risque roller derby theme, all of it captivating and perfectly matched to the beer inside. So you could tell that those comments were written by someone who writes,
for sure.
But it was fun to give out that award, and be able to loop in the
real quick on that one with Strawberry Bitch. I talked to Laura, the owner of Saddle Mountain, after, and asked her, she's like, I'm keeping this one for can art. She said the brewer can have the other 3 medals they won. This one's special to me because she had all the input in coming up with that, and that's kind of their stuff has always been kind of like airplane and that aviation themed.
Right.
And she's had a couple in recent about a female character on their beer and kind of branding it that way with and the roller derby theme.
Right.
That sort of what Craig wrote about. He's better at words than I am, but she was very, very proud of that one. Cool. And she's like, that one is her favorite award is winning can art for that beer.
That's awesome. Which kind of brings us to the medals. I don't have one here with me, but hopefully you can put up a picture of them.
Yeah, the medals were awesome from C&D Industry.
Yep. So the same guy who made the medals last year made them this year, but we made some adjustments. So last year we etched the logo and the letters on it. This year we cut them out so that they pop a lot more. And then last year they kind of put this like patina on them, like gold, silver, and bronze patina. This year we actually put Cerakote on them, which is a ceramic coating that is used on firearms and all kinds of other automotive parts and all kinds of other things. It's very sturdy, and it was very clearly bronze, very clearly silver, and very clearly gold. I am just beyond proud and excited about those medals, and just really cool to have them made locally. And
they have a cool shop out in Glendale, like downtown Glendale. We did a story on them a couple years ago. Leah, we have a video on our YouTube page where we visit with Chase, who runs that whole shop with us. And it's just, it's amazing what they did this year on those medals. They really pop, and a lot of breweries have been tagging us on their social media posts, showing off those medals.
Yeah, it's super
very cool to see.
Last year's medals were cool, and they were different, and they were new, and people really dug them. But I think we really upped the game on them this year, and very excited to keep working with Chase.
Well, that's the list. It was cool to finally meet Ayla from Borderlands, who got the Directors Guild Award and gave a nice speech about her work, encouraging other female brewers to participate in her project. So keep that going. And then Awards Festival coming up Saturday.
Yep.
We're going to get this podcast out late tonight, Wednesday into Thursday. So if you're listening, if you haven't got tickets, go to azcraftbeer.com. Get your tickets. What do we have? We have like 36 breweries coming and food.
I think it's 36 breweries, all local. Every brewery participating in the event is an Arizona-based brewery. No out-of-state breweries. And then we have about 52 total vendors.
Yeah, there's going to be cideries, wineries.
Yep.
Uh,
Winery.
Winery,
but
yeah,
it is
yeah.
Merkin, which is
Yep.
one of I think one of the best ones in the state too. So, yeah, a handful of good food trucks. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool. We will see you
Sweet.
there at the festival. Johan, thanks, man.
Thank you. We'll see you guys there.
And a belated thanks to Craig.